sustenance and respect and honor and compassion.
Good evening, everyone. So Aaron and I have discussed his situation. He had reached out to me, and we're going to do something. We're going to do something. And at the end of the day, it is we, isn't it? It's the average person, the person who's struggling. It's the communities that are struggling, that are there to support one another. When it should be the governments who we pay taxes to, who should be supporting our members. But we are there to pick up the slack until they find their way and start implementing policies that will address the needs of all Canadians and not just a few. So the reason I'm speaking today is I used to be on social assistance. I'm a second voice. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 6 years old. In a time when hard work and commitment helped you build a good life. There was value in the work you did. There was value in the money you earned and saved that allowed you to build up, buy a home, allow you to have an education, where students could work during the summer, save enough money, and go to university. There was a time that was possible. What has happened to that time? What has happened to that country? I'm terrified. I'm terrified as an immigrant to see the state, my beloved Canada, is coming to. I came from a third world country to escape poverty and persecution, to seek safety and security for myself and my family. And slowly, all those things are eroding away in Canada. There are standards now that we have people living in third world country standards. There are communities that do not have water. Now there is such a thing as period poverty. That's a third world country problem where we are trying to fight to allow girls to attend school because they cannot because of period poverty, and they fall behind in third world countries. And now we have that here in Canada. Why am I more frightened than the rest? Because I have no other options. My kids were born and raised here. This is their country. And yet they are not seen as Canadians by some. And at any time their rights can be taken away, stripped away, and they could be deported at the whim of any type of new government that decides that immigrants have no value. What about Canadians themselves? There are almost 48% Canadian families that are $200 away from insolvency. They could end up being homeless. In Nova Scotia, it's over that. It's, I believe, about 55 or 58% Nova Scotians are $200 away from being homeless. Aaron is an example. But I'm talking about also working Canadians. And now they're called the working poor. I never heard of that terminology. Never heard of that back in the 70s when I came here, or the 80s, the working poor. But it's a category that has been created. There's no longer a middle class. The middle class is now the professionals. The professionals are now considered the middle class. And there has been such a gap in the wealth that there's no way of recovering it, where two Canadians, two men, stand them on one side and say, put all your money in a pile, and then take 11 million Canadians, 1/3 of the population, ask them to put their money in the pile, and it's equal. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with this system. It's broken. It was meant to help support those in need, to give them time to lift themselves up And that was the case for us. We were able to lift ourselves up, but we had a way, we had education. There was a way out. Now the system is set up to keep you down and to create generational poverty, where the children of people on income system are forced to stay there and not be allowed to get out because they don't have access to good health through good food. They don't have perfect mental health because of the stress of poverty and the pain, and they don't have the hope of higher education because of lack of income. So what do we need to do? Can anyone say what we need to do? What are we willing to do? I, for one, am willing to do anything. Because this is the country I call home, that my children know as home and no other country, and I'm going to protect it, fight for it, and preserve the peace and sanctity of this country while helping each and every person to attain their capacity. The way we can start in this room is by spreading the word and breaking up the stereotype. The stereotype and the division that's created, that people on income assistance are lazy, good for nothing, they want that, they don't want out. That's not true. 70% of the people on social assistance are there because of health issues, mental health issues, or physical issues, and they need our support. And we have enough money to provide that support. There is more than enough money that our taxes and other ways have come into our economy. It's just they're not using it wisely. They're not putting it where it needs to go. It's going into the pockets of the few. And that's what we have to change. And the only way we're going to change that is by getting involved. Getting motivated. Taking action. Sharing the message. Correcting people when they are continuing with the stereotype. Stop our division. The working poor have to stop resenting those who are on income assistance. The people we should be resenting, they never seem to be held accountable. We're beating each other up. And when we can't find anyone else, then we try to find people of color, the indigenous community, or the black community, or the immigrant community. They're the fault of what's going on. In reality, it is the status quo. The status quo is there to serve the status quo and not the 99%. And we have to acknowledge that and start coming together in true solidarity, to work together, to uplift one another, to support one another until we can change that system. And it can be changed. You just have to have the will. You have to have people who are willing to move forward, that are in there for everyone else and not for themselves. The reason I decided to run was not that I was craving fame. Oh God, no. I don't need people attacking me publicly, which has already started. I don't need people to tear me down and my family down. I didn't need to put myself out there. I didn't do it for the money. With hard work and commitment, we have a good life. My husband's a physician. But he is now the middle class. With 3 children we're putting through school. We're not raking in the dough, but it was a comfortable life, and I certainly didn't need to be in there for the money. I am there because I see, by working at the grassroots level, when I took my head out of the sand and out of my world, and I looked around me, I saw what was happening, and I could no longer stand by and allow that to happen and go back to my world of comfort. So here I am, putting myself out there, running as your MP for the next federal election, because change is coming. We're starting a movement, and we're taking and bringing fire to Ottawa. fire that's going to be ignited by all the voices that's going to come together in hashtag solidarity over status quo. Thank you.